Thanks for tuning in to the Beyond Normal podcast, where we highlight minority business owners and founders, and we use this platform to shed light on their entrepreneur journey. Welcome to the Beyond Normal podcast. I am excited to have my guest, Khadijah A. Robinson. She is very accomplished, very talented, but right now she is focused on being the founder of the Nile List, which is your guide to shopping Black-owned brands online. How's it going, Khadijah?
It is going well. I can't complain. It's Friday.
Yes, exactly. Everybody should be happy. TGIF. For some folks, hopefully it's payday. Hopefully you guys getting ready to have a quarantined weekend. Everybody's staying safe, but I want to make sure that I hop into things real quick with you. Thank you for being on the show. Me and Khadijah have been trying to link up for this conversation for a while now. She's doing some amazing things, so I want to hop right into things and let you share your story. You ready for that?
I'm ready. Let's go.
All right, first question up. I want you to tell folks a little bit about your background. You have some, not some, you have an amazing background when it comes to, being a lawyer in that legal space. And I want you to tell folks a little bit about where you're from and how you got to this point where you're the founder of the Nile List.
Sure. So I'm from Savannah, Georgia. For anybody who's been there, it is a beautiful place. You should definitely go check it out when the Rona is over. And I grew up in Georgia. I went to Spelman College, so I'm a Spelmanite as well. And then I did a master's in London at the University College London before I went to law school. And I went to Harvard for law school and graduated in 2015. So I moved down to DC where I live now, and I've been in DC ever since, working at a corporate law firm and making moves in other ways. So I actually took a year to go clerk for a federal court judge here in DC. And it was during that year that I really, got the idea for Nile and started building it out. And it started as just a Google spreadsheet of Black businesses that I was keeping track of, that I had either shopped with or that had been recommended to me that I wanted to shop with. And, that federal government salary wasn't hitting the same way that law firm salary was. So I had to keep that as my wish list. And I do love to shop. So my wish list started getting a little bit out of control. But what I realized was, I was keeping this spreadsheet because it was so difficult for me to find Black brands to shop with when I was like shopping online, which is how I do most of my shopping. And as I started to grow it, other folks started asking me for it. Then my family and friends were like, "Oh, let me get that." Or, "Do you have any recommendations for candles? Do you have any recommendations for X, Y, and Z?" And I realized that I was not the only person who was interested in buying with Black brands. And I also wasn't the only person who had who had trouble doing it, who had a hard time finding businesses to shop with. So I started growing what is now the Nile List from that spreadsheet.
Thanks for that. And, I think about a couple things that you said there. Like you said, you like to shop. We all like to go, to our go-to products, right? For me, I'll probably say it's like, my business shirts, like things like that, cigar shops, I'm a guy, right? But to your point, you should be able to have places, that you can go and you can support and buy from people like you. So it's so cool. It's so amazing that you started out, like you said, with a spreadsheet. Right. But you kind of noticing other people trying to figure out having their own spreadsheet, trying to do their own spreadsheet, trying to figure out where to go, and saying that light bulb going off in your head, and saying, yeah, this should probably be a business. Right. That's incredible. That's incredible. And you mentioned something there. It's okay. I think, like you said, the salary piece, right? The salary or the money, right, that you were making at the time. I think it's okay. And people try to balance, think that, when you're a founder, you're starting your own company, you have to be in it for the right reasons, quote unquote. But just getting that bag, right? That is a legit reason
Yeah.
for being a founder.
No, it's true. It's true. And I actually had someone mention, I talked to a group of angel investors this week, and one of them said, I see a lot of young founders, women founders in particular, who, their businesses are all about the social good and these social causes. But I want to know where, like, are you going to be hungry and go out and make that money and build a really, really, really profitable business? To which my response was, there's money in social good. Like, people want to feel good when they go buy, and people want to be able to say, oh yeah, I bought all this new stuff and it was Black owned and it was, made by a women owned company, or it's vegan too, or it's eco-friendly and it's Black owned, all these things. People want to be able to say that, and people are willing to spend more money to be able to say that when they make purchases. So yeah, there's no nothing bad about securing that bag and building a really profitable, scalable company.
I like that. And so I want to kind of go off cuff a little bit. You mentioned your background. You're accomplished from an education standpoint. You being in that that legal arena, kind of going down that path. Like, what are some of the skills that you kind of leverage the most as you transition to being a founder of the Nile List?
That one's hard because I actually had to unlearn a lot of stuff. Being trained as a lawyer really jacks you up when it comes to being an entrepreneur. And it's because being trained as a lawyer is all about seeing risk everywhere, seeing problems and red flags all over the place, and being, very risk averse. How can you limit your risk? How can you do things that are not going to expose you? How can you make sure you're not opening yourself up to liability for X, Y, and Z? And being an entrepreneur is like liability off the bat. Like, from the jump, you are just taking risk after risk after risk after risk. You are taking all your money and putting it into something that may or may not fail, and is very likely to fail based on the statistics of how small businesses close, how startups fail, how you fail to get funding. And even if you do get funded startups still fail at an exponential rate. And so it's like, as an attorney, you kind of look at this landscape and your head is exploding. Like, oh my God, it can be very hard to really train yourself to not only take the type of risk, but move at the type of pace that you need to move at when you are in a startup environment, building a business. So a lot of my journey has actually been checking those lawyer voices in my head that'll be like, ooh, wait, do you really you need to read this entire thing, and you need to write out all of the, like the decision tree and X, Y, and Z when you're doing this. And sort of moving a little bit more into the realm of like, well, just do it and see if it works. Because startups are a lot about like, do it, see if it works. You have a basis for doing things, right? But it's still like, do it, see if it works. If it doesn't work, try something else. Which is not at all how you approach lawyering.
Got it. No, and I appreciate that, that feedback. Like you said, there's certain things that you got to unlearn like that. That's very important, because I think, it's something that, one thing that I've said as I talk to different founders, entrepreneurs like yourself, the one thing that they all agree on is when you take a gamble on yourself, you can't lose. But like you said, if you're trained your whole life to essentially be risk averse, and I've got a similar story when it comes to education, right? Me being a math person, a numbers guy, like you said, that risk averseness, that's something that's embedded in you, like at an early age, right? When you're going down that track of being educated. And so
I think especially as Black folks too, like I think our parents' generation is very risk averse. They're all about like, get that secure job, get those secure benefits, get that pension if you can, like security, and very rightly so, but like very focused on security and averse to risk. And so not out here, they're building savings and not play it in the stock market. But those are the, sort of differences.
And it's very interesting that you mentioned things like the stock market right now, where essentially the market, it crashed right at the beginning of this year. We had some sort of a downturn when it came to COVID. But what we've seen in this current environment, right, is that businesses are doing better than ever. A lot of the names that we all use, whether it's your phone, I'm not going to say their brands, whether it's the places we shop, a lot of the big players, the names that we all know, they're doing amazing during this time. And so, why can't you do amazing as a small business, as a founder of a startup? It's going to be a grind, like you said, but you can still make it.
Yeah, no, it's true. But I mean, we also have to think about like the perennial problem with being with bootstrapping as an entrepreneur, with being a small startup, early stage, and especially being a Black founder, is like the funding. A lot of these businesses have the money to weather a storm, and they can go 3, 4, 5 months in the red, and they could be okay. And and for us, even when going back to what I said earlier, like trying something, if it doesn't work, trying something else, a lot of bootstrapping founders who are not getting funded can't do that, because like if you do this one thing and it doesn't work, well, that's what you spent all your money on.
Got it. So high risk, high reward. Can you elaborate a little? I don't want to put you on the spot, but can you elaborate a little bit around how that initial ask was for you to get some resources to build up the Nile List? Did you do something like a friends and family round? Did you have something personally? Did you tap into your personal resources to get things off the ground?
Right. So I've been using my personal funds, and we actually did a crowdfunding round, which we are using to build out our new platform. But most of the money put into the business has been mine. So that's like the perk of being a corporate lawyer, right? Is that I've been able to fund the business in that way. But in that crowdfunding round, we did an incentive-based crowdfund. That meant that instead of giving people equity in the company, we gave them incentives in order to, contribute to our crowdfunding campaign. And we raised just over $37,000 in that campaign, which was really helpful for us as we're building out our new platform and testing out some new things with the business. But in terms of, raising that money, I think it was a lot about being able to communicate what our value was to folks and then making the ask, and not like, I was a little relentless with it too. I was like, hey, yo, I messaged you 3 days ago. You didn't reply to me. Mm-hmm. I see you haven't backed our campaign yet. Can I expect your contribution today? And we did it for a 30-day period. And I was just like, sort of working it, like calling people, texting people, emailing people, following up. But, a lot of people just believed in what we were doing and said, yeah, I want to be a part of that. We're like, do you want to be a part of our founding club? The people who are helping to make Nile happen. And people looked at what we're doing. We're trying to make it easy for people to buy Black. We're trying to make it easy for people to shop their values, and shop in a socially conscious way, and not have to trade anything to do it. You don't have to trade ease. You don't have to trade convenience. You don't have to give up variety or options. And people were like, yeah, I want that. I want to see it come to fruition. And so they're willing to put money behind it.
Thanks for sharing that. You gave some nuggets there. I think more importantly than ever, specifically for our generation and probably the generations after us, we have to keep in mind, right? Like, closed mouths do not get fed. And so what you just said around, hey, you really do have to ask. And oh yeah, by the way, just follow up with them. Life happens where people forget, and it's not like they're doing it on purpose. Like you said, there's some natural tendencies for us to maybe be conservative. But you were in that sales hat. It's interesting that you were able to adjust somewhat smoothly. Like you said, you were kind of relentless with it. I think that's the part that holds people up a lot of times, is like that ask. Like, you really gotta ask people, and it's going to be awkward. You're gonna have to embrace the pause, like he said. There's gonna be some awkwardness, like initially, like why are you asking me for money? But you got to do it. Like
No, you got to do it. That's the litigator in me, where I'm like, I've gotten used to being put on the spot in that way. So I think, in that way, being a lawyer has helped, because when you are standing up in the courtroom, which I have had the opportunity to do, and, you're talking to the judge and they want you to make an argument about something, or you are talking to a witness and you have to get what you need for the jury, you get into the flow where you can improvise and you become comfortable in that, in discomfort. And you do have to be able to have those conversations. Like, I had to call some people and be like, yo, this is what I'm trying to do. What's up? And that can be very, very hard to do. But a lot of times it is, just building ourselves up to do it, because, what you'll find is that you get very few no's. I got very few no's, and then I was like, okay, I get it. I understand. Well, I would appreciate if you could support in this way. If you can't support by backing the campaign, would you be able to share with a few family and friends that you think might be able to back us? Because it is a pandemic. It's a whole panoramic, as they say these days. And so I get it. Like, you folks can't always back you, and they can't always put money into these things, but you can always figure out a way for people to be able to support you, and make it less awkward in that way.
I like that. I've been doing I've been having some history lessons of my own. Think about like Black Wall Street, right, which was in Tulsa. I actually found out recently that there were some Black communities that were able to prosper here in North Carolina. Asheville, Durham is another city here in Charlotte that some folks may be aware
of. My family's from Durham.
Okay. Yeah, so it's like amazing when you have like these, like you said, you have that support system, and then the ecosystem, like everybody's just feeding each other, right? In terms of you spending dollars, they spend dollars with your business, and then you're ultimately helping, other brands that are Black owned, right? And then it's just a virtuous cycle, I think is what they say. And it ends up being something beautiful, but it's not necessarily something that people can see that vision right from the very beginning. And you wearing that hat and making sure that vision is there from the very beginning, and getting on that soapbox. I commend you for that.
Well, thank you. It can be tough. I'm not going to act like every day is just like so amazing and all that stuff. Literally just yesterday, I was like, oh, I don't know about this. And every business, every founder has those moments, lots of them. But if you are continuing to work towards the vision and figure out how to make it work, then that's all you can do.
Short and sweet. I like it. And so I want to, like you mentioned a lot, right? Like you said, there's ups and downs to this. There's always learning opportunities. What's something that you've learned throughout this process that, like, what's that top thing that you wish you could have known at the beginning of the process that would have set you up for success, maybe a lot quicker, or just put you in a better position?
I think it's literally something I am learning right now, and I am trying to really get in place right now, is that automation and standardization and implementing processes that other people can follow are probably one of the most important things about building the business, because until you do that, you don't know, like, you haven't actually been systematically laying out everything that needs to be done in order to accomplish a goal. And then you will always have to be the person that plugs in a lot of that work in order to get to that goal. And you can't ever scale if you're the person that has to do everything. So being able to systematize and operationalize a lot of things about your business is helpful in multiple ways, because it makes you define, like, what your goal is, where you want to be, and what you need to do to get there. And then it also enables other people to come and plug in more easily in order to get you to those goals when you're ready to bring new people in, or when you're in a startup, and you're like, you want to make sure that if you have a small team, that people are doing the things that are, need to get done, but also working on the things that align with their talents and that kind of stuff. It's just so helpful. And I realized that a lot of things have just been, for us, have been kind of like fly by night, like just flying by the seat of our pants sort of thing, which happens a lot at startups. But as much as you can say, these are our goals, this is what we want to do, this is what we're reaching for, and define what your vision is, and then define how you want to get there, the more easily I think you'll get there. Because then you'll see when, okay, we this is where we want to get, and this is how we thought we would get there, but we did those things and we didn't get there. So now we got to change something in that in that trajectory, and figure out what we need to do to get there. And then you continue to test and iterate. But it's kind of hard to say. It's kind of hard to see what you need to change if you haven't actually like laid out the process in a logical way. Because then you just kind of know, well, you failed, and maybe you only failed because you were trying to do this, via Facebook, when really you needed to be doing it on Twitter or different. And so like, you don't really see those places where you can make changes that will then get to you to where you want to go and help you reach that vision. It's a lot more difficult. So I'm realizing that we've been spinning our wheels on some things because we haven't been as methodical about laying out that process about how we are planning to get to our goals, and then seeing where we need to tweak and make changes. And so now that is my work for the rest of the year.
No, and it's like you said, like the idea that you just mentioned, for example, with like Facebook, right? Knowing that, hey, maybe you need to try different platforms, right? But you need to set your team up to where they know what that end goal is, right? And then they can, a lot of times, I see the chart sometimes where it's like you want to get from point A to point B, where point B is higher, but it's how you get there, right? And a lot of times we map it out as just one, all right, we're going to just straight go there, right? But then there's like memes online where it's like, there's like squigglies, and you kind of go backwards and then you're down, and then eventually you get there. But it would have been nice if you could have minimized some of those squiggly lines, right? That's not the technical way to look at it, but that's the way that I think about it sometimes. And it's kind of cool to think that you'll get there, like you and your team will get there in your own way. But then you want to make sure, like you said earlier, that you're putting them in positions to succeed. And that's a tough hat to wear as a leader. So I don't envy you from that perspective.
It's very tough, but even more so, like what you said about getting there with the squiggly lines, that's why you got to make sure you're documenting everything, because once you get there and then you set the next goal, you got to be able to go back and see how you got to the first goal so that you can have a cleaner line, hopefully a few less squigglies to get to that next goal. But if y'all were just kind of doing whatever the heck to get to the first goal, then you're probably going to be bouncing off of every wall to try to get to the second goal too. And that's not really as scalable. It's much better to say, okay, these are the 15 steps that we took and we hit this. And so if we can put, more money, more resources and behind these 15 steps, then we know we can get to this next level.
I like that. I've gone to the Nile List site a couple of times. The site looks amazing. If the listeners haven't checked out, make sure that you go to the nilelist.com. The site, again, is, Black owned, different products. You can search for whatever products you really want, for the different categories. But something actually caught my attention on the site, the last week or so around the the curated boxes, right, of Black owned products. And you talked a little bit around how you guys have been testing and kind of figuring things out. Like, I guess what kind of analysis or what were people telling you who are leveraging the knowledge right now that said that, you know, they wanted these curated boxes of different products?
Well, really, the thing was figuring out, our customers and generally how they operate on our site, and seeing that a lot of folks come and they are looking for particular products, right? They're looking for an item. They might think today I need batteries. I wonder if there are any Black battery companies. Let me go check. And then they find the battery company on Nile and they dip out, go buy their batteries. But some folks are like, I want to support Black businesses and I don't really know what's out there. I don't have anything, pressing right now that I need to buy. I just kind of want to browse around. And these boxes are really for those folks who want to discover and they want to just find out about new Black brands, be able to try things. They're not sure exactly what they're looking for, but they're interested in that discovery aspect of what we do. And so, with the boxes, we're actually going to start shipping them out this weekend for our holiday box. So anybody who hasn't grabbed one, make sure you go on the site and do so. We're running a whole bunch of specials. And that's also a part of the testing process because we have this box, we have the pricing and we have the marketing that we've done around it already, but we are planning to launch a marketplace next year. So a lot of what we're doing with the box is testing out how our audience responds to different things and what drives them, and saying, okay, if on Thursday we say you get 10% off the box, and then if you buy it today, and then on Friday, we say you get free shipping on the box if you buy it today, and we get 10 people that buy on Thursday and 20 people that buy on Friday, well, then it looks like our audience cares more about free shipping than they do about getting a discount on the box. And being able to test the different things like that. So we are definitely using it a lot for customer discovery, but on our end, but also to help help our customers discover things on their end. And really excited just about the prospect of using these curated boxes as a way to connect people with brands that they aren't familiar with and hopefully get them some new favorites.
Mm-hmm. That, like, you even perked my ears when you were just talking about the Black owned battery brand. Just something like that, right? Like, we all need batteries for remotes and all kinds of things around our house. Like, if I knew that there was a brand, and I'm actually going to go to the Nile List and make sure that I type in batteries now. If I knew that there was a brand for that, that's a no-brainer.
Yep, that's it. It's a big thing, making sure that people know about these things that are out there. And so maybe, it's like the cost of a meal to get subscribed to the box is $60. Although let me not get into that Twitter debate about like the cost of a date. But if you live in DC, it's a pretty standard cost of a meal, and for $60 every quarter, we curate these boxes around a different theme. And we ship them out to you. You get, somewhere between 5 and 8 products in them. This box, as the holiday box, has a few smaller products. So you're going to get 13 products from 8 different Black-owned brands. And you'll get to really discover. And you can also gift them, which is really fun. This one is all about giftables for the holidays. So we are really, really excited about these inaugural boxes that we're going to start sending out soon.
I like it. And I think you are lowballing a date in the DC area. I think it's more than $60. I'm pretty sure it is more than $60. I can guarantee that. No,
$60 just for you by yourself to have a date.
Yeah, okay. I was about to say.
In quarantine.
Yeah, we're splitting the ticket. Yeah. I was about to say. Maybe because of quarantine, but $60 seems kind of low.
Yeah, no, it ain't cheap, y'all. It ain't cheap. Hopefully Black Twitter don't come for me with all the back and forth about that, but it's not cheap.
Yeah, that's like a can of worms, that whole discussion. So I'm going to move on. And so as we are closing out, 2020, again, I hope everybody is safe, quarantine. But what are some of the, as we've had conversations throughout the year, we've had conversations around COVID at the top of the year, and I think that snowballed into what we're calling right now, right, the second pandemic that is plaguing us all, which are the conversations around social inequities here in the States and really worldwide. So how have those conversations impacted you personally, and then the business as well as you plan for 2021? And I know you have some interesting perspective on that, just because you had some international travel that I think the folks should hear about this year.
Yeah, so I've been in two different places this year that saw that grappled a lot with social issues. So obviously, I'm here in DC in the U.S., and we've been dealing with social issues as it relates to Black folks since forever. And there was obviously the murder of George Floyd, which sparked a resurgence in the visibility around Black Lives Matter movement. And for the majority of the time that, people were really talking about that outside of the country. I left the country in March and I went to Nigeria. I did not expect to be there for that long, but then pandemic happened and they closed the borders in Nigeria. So I was kind of stuck there hanging out with the family members that I have that live there. And so when this popped off in May, I was there and I was watching it from afar, but it's something that's been very close to my heart for such a long time, and was really part of what initially pushed me to be more purposeful about my support for Black businesses, was the murder of actually several people. Trayvon Martin was one of the ones that I really remember starting to shift my ideology. But even going back to when I was in college and the murder of Oscar Grant, it's been something that's been on my mind for a while. And then Ferguson really started pushing me towards thinking about buying with Black-owned businesses more systematically. But then, in Nigeria, I left there at the very beginning of October, right as the End SARS movement was starting there. And again, it was about the social inequities really more fundamentally, even though the premise of the movement was about this particular police unit in Nigeria. But, that police unit has been emboldened and enabled by a corrupt government and sort of a lot of deeply rooted societal issues that have led to young folks being like just rising up in the same way that they did in the US with Black Lives Matter and saying, nah, we're tired of this. We're done. We're over it. And I think it is, it's obviously created a lot of interest in what I'm doing from a lot of corners that might not have been as interested or as focused on something like Nile previously. But I think it's also really shown people the importance of what we're doing with a platform like this, because we started to touch on it with some of the ways that protests were manifesting when people are, for example, when a Target is looted and folks are like, well, like, what is Target doing? Who cares about a Target? And making these corporations realize that they, that they have to demonstrate that they're being as much a part of the solution as possible if they are going to continue in this era. But the folks who are out here pushing for change are also opening people's eyes to how much their dollars matter. And so we are really allowing people to use their dollars for good, to get the things that they want, the things that they need online when they're shopping, and also to feel good about the way that their money is being spent and who it's going to.
Mm-hmm. Nah, and you touched on a lot there. And it's interesting that you brought up the issues in Africa, right? That you were able to witness along with the issues here in the States. And just in seeing you explain it, like it's clear what the similarities are, right? And it's around empowering people, and then essentially, some of those individuals taking advantage of the underrepresented, right? The folks who don't necessarily have that say. And so I think that's great to that the conversations are happening right now, and I appreciated that the conversations really shifted from racial conversations to, all right, what are we talking about when we look at bigger groups of people? When you start looking at socioeconomic levels within societies, like there's some systemic things going on, and it doesn't matter what your skin color is, right? There's a chance that it's gonna impact you. It just so happens that a lot of these negative things, when it comes to skin color that looks like me and you, we're in those buckets that are impacted the most, right?
We're across the board, and
Yeah,
I think
across the
for
board.
me, a big one is the prison population. And looking at that, just the mere fact that we are still imprisoning people in a pandemic, not giving them any kind of choice, even when COVID has been going around like rapid fire in some of these prison populations, and then we turn around and rely on them to fight fires in the West. Like we're we are exposing a population to illness and death without any regard for their well-being, but then asking them to help us protect our well-being. And it's just, I think it exposes a lot about the issues in our society. So yeah, I think folks this year, it's a topic that we talked a lot about when I was at Spelman, intersectionality, as women, as a women's college and as an HBCU, thinking a lot about the intersectionality of various things, whether it is, primarily being a woman and also being a Black person, but also being LGBTQ and a variety of things. But I think that people on a much larger scale this year have really started thinking a lot more about that intersectionality and looking not just at what it means to be a Black person in the US, but also looking at all of these other populations of people who are being impacted negatively by the way that our society runs and how a lot of folks are falling into multiple groups.
No, yeah. And then when you fall into multiple groups, it's not like these issues are like you just add them on top of each other. A lot of times they're compounded, right? And so you think about, like you said, being a female, being African American, or there's a chance you may be LGBT within that community, like your risk, and like you just said, we said earlier, being risk averse, like your risk for a lot of the things that are plaguing society just went up, 3, 5, 10, 20, 30, 50 fold. Yep. Right? Versus the benchmark. I feel good about 2021. I will say that. And I think with the point that you brought up, just seeing people have the conversations, people feeling like they're empowered, whether they're in a corporate setting or, they're a business owner, they're an entrepreneur, people just feeling more empowered to have those conversations. I think that's the golden nugget here, even with all the stuff that's going on in 2020. That helps us see some of that, the light at the end of the tunnel in 2021 and moving forward.
Yep. I'm crossing my fingers for 2021. I'm cautiously optimistic though, because I was also like, I was optimistic in April that we was about to be outside in May, and now I'm just looking crazy.
Yeah, Khadijah. Yeah, no. Yeah. No, like you said, April, May, it was just like, oh, this is real. Like, this is not going away. That was the feeling I had too. So I'm right there with you. Like, hey, we'll figure this thing out. And it's like, no, this is here to stay this year. So we say all that, I appreciate you giving all that background, giving your perspective. What are you looking forward to for 2021 for the Nile List?
I am looking forward to a lot more failure. And that might sound a little crazy, but I am looking forward to that because I will know that if we are continuing to iterate, there's going to be failure. If we're continuing to test things out and to learn, there's going to be failure. And so I am looking forward to that process. And becoming more and more equipped to learn more and to then get better coming out of those failures.
Mm-hmm. So, I think that's a mic drop moment. I wish I had a mic I could just pass you through the screen so you could just, drop it. If I could get it right, there you go, the mic drop. But that is, that's an important one. I think you touched on it earlier, obviously, with the risk averse and just the conservative nature of, say, the generations before us. And I feel like our generation, right, we're kind of in the middle somewhat. Like, we're the first ones to have, our phone, have a cell phone at the age of 10, 11, 12, right? We were the first ones to actually play with some of these tools. And I feel like for the most part, we've done a good job of using them to the best of our ability. But I'm not going to lie, seeing the younger generation and what they're doing with it now, it's kind of got a little battery in my back because I thought that, I was leveraging things the best way that I could. But, then I look at my 10, 11, 12-year-old nephews and little cousins, and they're like doing things that I probably wasn't able to do at their age in terms of just
I was on AOL Instant Messenger thinking I was hot.
Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah, AOL, you know what? I think we had MySpace.
Oh, baby. I was on Black Planet.
Black Planet. I was going to say Black Planet. You remember Black Planet?
I was on Black Planet like it wasn't nobody's business, okay? I was at school. Hit me up on AOL Instant Messenger. Here's my AIM name, writing it down on a piece of paper, sliding it to phones. I was not on TikTok, in front of like millions of people around the world.
Yeah, it's just, we thought we were the ish, and it's just, I think it's good motivation though. Because I think the tools, they're probably going to get, incrementally better over time, right? And so we'll be able to take part in that. But like you said, that failure piece, I'm already in apps that I have no idea what I'm doing most of the time, and I do have to call my younger my younger cousins and nephews and nieces and just ask them like, hey, how do you navigate this app? Because I'm having trouble. I'm doing that already, Khadijah.
Technical support, I'm trying to figure out. Sounded like my grandma, but yeah.
Nah, it's real. It's real. So, you're excited to see, have more failure and learn from those opportunities. That's going to be a big one for 2021. That's going to be huge. Another nugget. And so, in closing, I want to thank you, Khadijah, for hopping on the Beyond Normal podcast. Again, we've been trying to get this one on the map, for a while now, but I appreciate you stopping by. I'm glad you're quarantined, you're safe. But in closing, I do want to make sure I give you some time. Let folks know how they can reach out and stay connected on the Nile List. And then in addition to that, for the business owners out there who have products that may fit on your platform, how can they reach out to you?
Right. So number one, we list businesses that are Black-owned e-commerce brands. So as long as you sell products online and you are a Black-owned company, wholly or partially, then you can list with us for free at thenilelist.com. Just make an account and then sign your business up. Super easy. For anybody who wants to just see what we got, go to thenilelist.com and use our search tool, find what you want. And you can also find us on social media at the Nile List. We are on all the big things. We just got a TikTok, so I'm still playing around with that, but we're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest, and now we have our TikTok page. So everything is at the Nile List, pretty easy to find.
Thanks for that. And, if you go, like Khadijah said, the Nile List, if you go to and search on that on Google or whatever your search platform is, Khadijah has the first page on lock. So I just want to throw that out there. The business is not hard to find. I do enjoy the quarantine Mondays, and I did enjoy the balcony banter. I don't know if you're bringing back the balcony banter, Khadijah, on your YouTube, but I enjoyed all those videos, so make sure you guys check that out as well. Again, I appreciate Khadijah for hopping on the episode. Looking forward to folks buying those curated boxes. I'll be buying one myself. To check out all the different Black brands, the batteries. Like, as soon as you said batteries, it just kind of like piqued my interest. I'm that kind of person where I care about having enough batteries in my house.
Listen, I gotta buy some now. Yeah. I need triple A's, and all I got is double A's, and I'm worse. Mad.
It's the worst when you got like a whole big pack of double A's, and you need triple A's or vice versa. So I'm not going to hold you guys too much longer. I just want to say thanks for tuning in to the Beyond Normal podcast. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to the Beyond Normal podcast. We can be streamed across all major streaming platforms in addition to YouTube. Come back again.